When you are working with radicals, you need to understand all the different pieces that come into play with that, okay? So the first thing that we're gonna look at is just kind of the breakdown of a radical. So this number that you'll see right here, the n, we call that your index, okay? The number that is under the symbol, the a, is your radicand. And then the symbol itself, they call the radical symbol. So like you've probably heard me say, well, those of you that had me before, you've heard me say like rad 9, right? Or rad 5. I'm saying the radical symbol and 5, okay? So what we're gonna do with that is your symbol, okay? When they just give you like the 5th root of 32, for instance, that symbol setup gets you one answer, okay? Now, historically speaking, when we've done this, if it's been something like this, x squared equals 4, and I asked you to solve that, how many answers did you give me? 2. So you are gonna give me 2 answers at times. Notice the difference. This is an equation. When it's given to you as an equation and you solve it, you say x equals plus or minus 2, right? So when it's an equation, you're gonna give me the plus or minus answers. But when it's just the symbol like this, you're gonna just give one answer, okay? And it's called the principal root, or like the main root, you could say. When your index, when this number, the like superscript number is an even number, technically if you were to solve an equation, you would get 2 answers, the positive and the negative. We're just gonna give the positive. We're just gonna give the principal root for that type of setup, okay? You will get negatives as answers for some of these, and I'll show you that in just a minute. But I just want you to understand the principal root is the positive answer if your index is even, a 2, a 4, a 6. Really, we don't go any beyond that. So first example that we're gonna talk through, they're gonna ask you to find, very key word here, the real root, the real answer, okay? Not the imaginary answer, the real answer. So get your calculator out, and I'm gonna show you on my calculator up here what you're gonna be plugging in for these. You probably, some of you know this button already. I've told all of you this, well, Ms. Price or I have told all of you this one already. But I just wanna make sure everybody's clear and can find where the buttons are, because inevitably someone has forgotten at some point. Okay, so if you look at that first problem, it says the cube root of 64. What you're gonna do to figure that out, now some of you may know it off the top of your head, and that's great. You don't have to plug it into your calculator, but if you're like, is that the right one? Just plug it in, it's good. If you hit math, and then notice the number 4 is already a cube root, so math 4, and then type in 64. Hit enter. And you get that the cube root of 64 is 4, okay? But then look next to that, letter C. That one asks you for the 4th root of 81, okay? Now this one to plug it in is a little bit different. If you click math again, you'll see there is no 4th root there. But you'll also see that the number 5 has an X out in front of it. So you can choose any number you want for that. So here's how you do it. You're gonna just clear out of that real fast. If I want the 4th root of 81, I'm gonna hit 4, and then math, and then the number 5. Okay, that little X symbol, this one right here. So 4 math 5, and look what it does. Gives you the 4th root, right? And then you can type in 81, hit enter, and you get 3. Okay, so the 4th root of 81 is 3. Okay, now I want you to plug in the square root of negative 100. So square root is above your x squared there. So second square root, negative 100. Hit enter. Did you get an error? Do you know why you got an error?
Because we have turned some specific thing on in our calculator, or because it's imaginary?
It's an imaginary number. What did the question ask you for?
Negative square root.
The real
Or the
root,
yeah.
right? We want to find the real root. That's not a real solution. There is a solution, but it's an imaginary solution. So what you're going to say here for letter E, actually, I'm just going to jump back to it so you can see my stuff again. Okay, when they ask you to take the square root of a negative number, so if it's an even index, right, a 2 or a 4 or a 6 out in front, if it's an even index, you will not get a negative, or you cannot take the negative. So this is going to be no real solution. Okay, there is an imaginary solution. What is the imaginary solution? 10i, good job. But there is no real solution to that. Okay. Okay.
For every negative one, right?
No. Every negative that has an even number here, yes. Because an odd, you can go -3 times -3 times -3, right? Okay, look at this one. Square root of 81. What do you get? The principal root. 9. Okay, that's not going to be a plus or minus 9 when it's just the symbol like that. When it's an equation, that's when we do the plus and minus. Okay, now look at letter D. The cube root of -27. Plug that into your calculator real fast. So that's going to be math. And then what number?
-3.
Is your answer, yes. When you plug it into your calculator, math what though? To do a cube root? Math 4. You can do math 5 if you do 3 math 5. But yeah, otherwise just math 4 will give you a cube root. Plug in -27 and you should get a -3 there. Okay, so just notice, if this number is odd, it's okay to have a negative under the radical because -3 times -3 times -3 is -27, okay? But if that number's even, can't have a negative under the radical. All right, so look at letter F. The fourth root of -16. What is your real root?
There are no real solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Even,
Yep, there is no real solution to this. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay, so side note, in your homework, you're going to see things like this, and they're going to say solve. How do you solve that?
The radical 4.
Right, a fourth root, okay? So if I take the fourth root of both sides, then x equals the fourth root of 1. What is the fourth root of 1? 1, or -1. When it's an equation, when it starts as an equation like that, then your answer is going to be plus or minus. Okay, when it's just a symbol like this, not x equals something, then you just give the principal. Okay, so if I said x cubed equals 27, solve for x, that's a bad example. There's not 2 for that. If I said x squared equals 16, solve for x, how many answers are you going to give me? 2, because it's an equation, okay? When it's written as an equation, we square root both sides, x equals plus or minus 4. So just pay attention how the problem is given to you. If it's given to you as an equation, and there are 2 answers, you'll give me 2 answers. If it's given to you just as a symbol, you only give me the principal root, just the positive version of it. Okay, the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add some variables into the mix, which is a pretty simple process. The book does it a lot more complex than we're going to do it. So like when you check your homework for this tomorrow, you're gonna see absolute value bars all over the place. We're not doing those, Okay, so ignore the absolute value bars. We're not gonna mess with them. We're just gonna assume the positive every time. So in doing this, let's take a look. This letter A, it says take the square root of 9x to the 6th, okay? First of all, can you tell me the index number for that? What would the index be?
1.
It's not 1. It's 2. Yeah, it's 2. A square root is as if there's a little 2 right here, okay? So if I want to break this down, essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking the square root of 9 and I'm taking the square root of x to the 6th. What is the square root of 9? 3. Okay? Now this is the part that's maybe new to you. The square root of x to the 6th is basically saying what can I multiply by itself twice, right? Square root to get x to the 6th. The way you figure it out is you take your exponent. Wow. It took me that long to come up with the word exponent, you guys. You take the exponent and you divide by the index. Maybe you want to just make a little note of that to yourself up here. It's going to be exponent divided by index, okay? So the square root of x to the 6th would be what? X to what power? The 3rd, right? 6 divided by 2 is going to give you 3x to the 3rd power. Okay? If you're ever wanting to check yourself on this, if I square rooted something to get that, if I do the opposite and I square it, I should get this thing back, right? So if I take 3x to the 3rd and I square that whole thing, I should get 9x to the 6th, which I do. So you can always check it by just reversing it and doing the opposite of what you just did. Okay, look at letter B. Anyone know the cube root of 8? It's 2, right? 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So the cube root of 8 is 2. What is the cube root of a to the 3rd? Just a to the 1st, right? It's 3 divided by 3 would be 1. So this is just a to the 1st power. And then b to what power? B to the 2nd power, yeah. So you're doing 6 divided by 3, and that gives you this. Okay? Again, if you want to check it, cube the whole thing. 2 cubed is 8. A cubed is a cubed. B to the 2nd cubed is b to the 6th. So we know we got the right answer. What is your index for letter C? 2. It's a square root, right? So there's this 2 here that we just don't see. What is the square root of 25?
5.
That'll be 5. The square root of x to the 4th? X to the 2nd power. All right, we're just going x to the 4th, taking that 4 and dividing by 2. And then the square root of y to the 10th? Y to the 5th power, yeah. Questions on that? Okay, you do letter D.
We're not going to need our calculators, guys, except the homework.
Not for me, yeah, the homework. What did you get? What's the 4th root of 10,000?
10.
That is 10.
X and y to the 4th power.
Yeah, so x, right? X to the 4th, and this 4, you go 4 divided by 4 is 1. And then 16 divided by 4 would be y to the 4th. So 10x y to the 4th. Okay, if you want to check it, remember, all you got to do is take this all to the 4th power because we took it to the 4th root already. Okay, you can check it. You'll get exactly what you had under here. Any questions on that? Short and sweet and to the point, right? 15 minutes.